Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm JC. Today's video is going to be, well, how should I put this? I'm going to be asking for a little bit of brainstorming help. So, one of my goals for the month is to brainstorm my short story collection idea, 7 Deadly Sins. It's not the official title, but the theme of the collection is the 7 Deadly Sins. So, and a while back, I was on an episode of The Writer's Room that is no longer available because of YouTube reasons. But there was a lot of ideas bounced off for this collection, and I wrote some things down and got some ideas sprung off of that. But I'm not a short story writer. Granted, I did a challenge last year sometime where I dabbled in flash fiction. I wrote a piece every day for like 30 days or something, not sure. And I got a little taste of what it's like to write short fiction, but it's still a little rough for me. Now I found this video from on Rachel Wright's channel, and it's how to write a short story for beginners, which I am a beginner. And you might be asking, but why write a short story if it's not your thing? I like reading short stories. I'm one of those people that always starts a short story and then it turns into a novel. And I really want to be able to hone the skill of writing a short story. And then I got the idea for this collection. And it's the way the collection would be structured. It's the way I want it to be structured. I want them to be interconnected stories that have their own separate beginning, middle, and end for each story, but all of the stories together have an overreaching overreaching arc. You know what I'm trying to say. So it's going to be centered around a serial killer. Shocker, it's me. Who seeks revenge on 7 people. And these are 7 people who did her, yes, the serial killer is a woman, who did her wrong in college years. And there's a trigger that triggered the course of events that she goes on this rampage for. And they each did something kind of different that goes along with the 7 deadly sins. If you don't know what they are, it's pride, envy, gluttony, greed, lust, sloth, and wrath. So what I have for the moment is this one girl. She had a friend group. It was 8 of them. They all hung out, but she was kind of like the odd person out of the group. It was clear to a lot of people back when they were in college that she was the one that was being used for her she was like a genius, and they were using her for her abilities or whatever to get them further on in their college careers. And the school that they went to had a strict morals clause, and basically they got caught. Well, she got caught, and she was the only one that got in trouble. She got expelled, and she came from a background of her family. Well, her father was a preacher, and her family didn't have a whole lot of money. She was in school on scholarship, and she basically, her being kicked out of school kind of threw her entire life off course, off track, set her on a course of events that made her life take a downward spiral. She became estranged with her family because her family was ashamed of her for what happened. Her father ended up losing his church because I want to say her father was very she's from a very religious background, and she did not necessarily hold all of those same religious values, but her family was very proud that she got into this prestigious school and kind of boasted about it. And she was the first one in her family to go to college. And yeah. So when everything blew up and everything, she lost everything. She ended up owing all of the money that she was initially on scholarship for, because when you get, well, some schools, when you get kicked out for the morals clause, they make you pay everything back, even if it was given to you on a scholarship. And that was the case with this school. And so she's in all of this debt. Her family is disgusted with her, and she's estranged from her family. She essentially is like, nothing happens to the other people who she committed this act for. They go on and they make their lives and go on and live prestigious lives and become doctors, lawyers, and have families and all this thing. And she just kind of devolved into this downward spiral. So the reunion comes up, which is what triggers everything. And suddenly, strange things start to happen to, not to the people per se who did the wrong to her, but to people that they love in their lives. And they start to happen according to the 7 deadly sins. I'm not entirely sure I'm explaining this right, but and my notes are kind of jumbled all over the place, and clearly, as I'm reading, the notes aren't exactly in order of how I thought it up. So I'm probably reading this out of order. But that is essentially the gist. So I have the names already figured out. I won't tell you exactly who the killer is yet, but their names are Rebecca, Jonah, Cassandra, Peter, Evan, Whitney, Elena, and Robert. And I mean, I know which one is the killer, but y'all don't even know that. Okay. I guess what I need help with is, well, one is that two is the premise that I have so far too mundane or too boring. I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be something like where someone assaulted someone and this is years later and now they're getting revenge. I didn't want it to be like, I thought of doing that, but I didn't want it to be that. I do want it to be able to pull readers in, and I want to have enough to keep them interested in reading the collection throughout. I'm not set in stone on the premise as to why she goes off on a serial killer rampage. So if you have any ideas of something different to throw out there, by all means, I'm making this video because I need some help, because I really want to be able to write a short story. I want to write a short story collection. I like reading short stories, so why can't I write one? So I should be able to do this. I'm trying to push myself and my writing abilities. Also, okay, so each story is going to be from a different POV, one of each of the friends, and it's going to be something that's happened to them and all these strange happenings, and it's going to start to become apparent like midway through that they all tie to this one individual who none of them speak to anymore. She's the only one they don't speak to anymore. The rest of the friend group still speaks to each other. She's young. Like I said, she lost everything and she kind of was isolated out from the group. So they didn't speak to her anymore, obviously, because, they basically, she was the scapegoat. She took the blame, and rightfully so. She did the wrong thing, but she wasn't the only one that did the wrong thing. So, so things start happening to each of the each person in the friend group, and I'm not entirely sure yet what the things are that's going to happen or which person in their lives is going to get the axe. It's not going to be them, because the idea for her is to take away someone they love, like she feels they took away all of the people she loved. Like, she's estranged from her. In her mind, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense in real life, but in her mind, it makes sense. They basically, what happened to her ended up with her being estranged from her family and essentially took the people away from her that she loved. So she doesn't want to kill them. She wants to make them suffer the way she's been suffering. And she wants to take things away from them little by little, the way she feels things were taken from her little by little. Now, I watched this video from Rachel Wright, and I'm not entirely sure I have all the 4 points that she discussed, but hold on. Take a look.
A short story can be broken down into 4 basic parts. Number 1, character in particular predicament. Number 2, event unrolls that disrupts this predicament. Number 3, event peaks and causes. Number 4, a final revelation that changes that predicament. 1. Character in a particular predicament. You can't have a short story without a character. I'm focusing on human characters, but your character can be an animal or a setting or whatever you want it to be. Short stories occur because of a problem or predicament. The predicament is the heart of your story. It is why your character is telling this story at this time. Predicaments are conflicts, and conflicts can be internal or external. 2. Event unrolls that disrupts this predicament. Now that you've identified a character and their predicament, you need to identify an event that disrupts this predicament. This disruption causes the story to actually happen, aka unroll on the page. This disruptive event is also known as the inciting incident. 3. Event peaks. This is the story's climax. It's the moment the character's predicament starts to shift due to the disruptive event. Think of this like an avalanche. Everything starts falling apart to create something new. 4. A final revelation changes the predicament. This is a step a lot of newbie short story writers, including myself, mess up. The ending of a short story is so important because it recontextualizes everything else that came before. It essentially signals to the reader what the story was about. This can be very daunting if you don't know where to start, but the answer is simple. All you need is for your character to make a revelation that changes their positioning on their original predicament. This revelation will be the direct aftermath of the event peak. If you're writing a short story believing your character doesn't change, this might not be as true as you think. Are you sure the character doesn't change at all, or do they actually regress? That's another type of change. Really take a moment to think of who your character is at the start of the story and what happens over the course of the story that might change them.
So that last part, where the character changing, I thought about that when I was watching the video, because I'm like, well, she's a serial killer and she doesn't exactly end up all changed in the way that initially most people will probably mean it. But when she highlighted the fact that it could also mean negative change, I'm like, so my character could devolve, not evolve. She spirals further and further out of control with each killing that she does. If you haven't guessed by now, this will probably be the start of a series of sorts of me trying to write my first ever short story collection. So this is an introduction to that, I guess. For those of you out there who write short stories, first of all, do I have enough? Is there enough conflict that I have? Is her devolving enough of a change in the end? Do I need something meatier for the inciting incident, for the conflict, if you will? Okay. I've rambled enough. Let me know in the comments if you have any additional ideas. If you think that maybe the premise or the reason for her initial breakdown of sorts is enough. Do I need something juicier? Do I need something that would require a trigger warning? I wasn't really trying to do that, but I mean, is it going to be enough for readers to feel pulled in? And the interconnectedness of it Do y'all like that idea? I kind of like it when I read short story collections that I can tell, like when I get maybe 2 or 3 stories in, that they're all kind of connected together. Um, I personally like those kinds of collections. I've read some that weren't connected and they were equally good, but I personally like those kind of connections, and I want to. I'm hoping I can write stories that individually stand out on their own, but when woven together, you kind of get the overall picture of this one person that's going around killing these people. Um, anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. If you like what you see and you want to see more videos from me, make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button. I post videos on Mondays and Thursdays. I live stream on Wednesdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As per usual, if you would like to be supportive in any of my creative endeavors, such as my blog, my online magazine, my online store, or my Ko-fi page, also now my Redbubble shop, and I have a Patreon. All of those links to those things can be found in the description box below. Until next time, have a blessed day. Bye.